Welcome back to Alberta Primetime and the nightly Vocal Point now. Joining our Monday Money panel, Jim Yee, financial educator and founder of retirehappy.ca. Good to see you, Jim.
Thanks, Michael.
In Calgary, Beth Hamilton-Keene, director and portfolio manager with Moore Investment Management, as well Shafik Hirani, director and senior executive financial advisor with Investors Group. Calgary, good to see you two folks as well.
Thank you.
Shafik, let's start with you. Boycotting bananas, the latest in a line of products and companies Albertans are being asked to avoid. Chiquita Bananas announcing last week it would stop using fuel from the oil sands to transport its products. In response, the Alberta Enterprise Group urged all Canadians to boycott the banana brand. And now ethicaloil.org, Calgary-based oil sands advocacy group, calling for the same. So Shafik, boycotts on either side of the coin, do they work?
I don't think anything is going to stop the Alberta oil sands growth. I mean, it's good to raise publicity, but you have to sort of put it in perspective. The Chiquita brand sort of had a $25 million indictment last year for helping terrorism, and I think what they're trying to do is deflect a little bit of their own trouble that they got in and try to boycott the Alberta oil sands. Now, on the other side of things, if you take a look at the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, we've had boycotts in the past. I mean, last year the Gap did it, Levi's did it, I think it was Waltons that did it, or not Walmart, but Waltons or something like that. Each one, and once they got a little bit of information by the Canadian Association of Oil Sands Producers, they rescinded a lot of those boycotts. So honestly, Mike, I don't think they help too much, and I think they're very short-lived once people start to understand the real amount of carbon emissions that the oil sands do emit.
Beth, this time around, we have some politicians jumping on board. Wildrose Party leader Danielle Smith saying she'll boycott the bananas. Tweets of a similar sort from Calgary MP Jason Kenney and Edmonton area MP Rana Ambrose. Should Albertans be following this advice?
Well, I would say right now it's political, it's easy, it gains some publicity, and that's really where the attraction is. The other thing about it is we have a choice right now. We do have another brand of bananas to choose, like many other things, but how long will it last? And bigger picture, when I stand back, is really the hypocrisy of it. I mean, how much does it really cost to ship those bananas? If we're going to ask people to boycott bananas, we should boycott all bananas, not necessarily because of the oil sands, because of the transportation costs to move them around the world. So it really depends on how many layers you want to peel back here to examine this issue, and it really does feel very short-lived, very quick and easy to react to.
Jim, it was brought up the example of the Gap. There were other Lush Cosmetics, a number of other companies about a year or so ago announcing their own boycotts. Does it make sense long-term? Does it make sense short-term?
You know, I think boycotts are great for media, great for awareness, but I'm not sure that boycotts really change anything, really. I'm not sure they really truly affect the bottom line. I think there's so much noise in the world today that you know, boycotts are interesting, but I don't see them as overly effective. So,
do you find that Albertans will pay attention when you have politicians coming out in support of ethicaloil.org?
Well, I think if you're passionate about a cause or you're passionate about something, but I'm not sure that all Albertans are passionate about it. I think, you know, we all have different, we have so much going on in our lives today that to be, you know, so passionate about oils or bananas or the Gap or one specific issue, I don't know. I just don't think it has a profound effect on things.
One last question for either of you in Calgary, just big PR machine?
Absolutely. I think that really it's boycotting because it's easy. Once you make it difficult and we have to make an effort to boycott anything, that's where the real challenge comes. And
they don't know the story. Canada emits 2% of the world's greenhouse emissions. 7% of that 2% comes from the Alberta oil sands. So it's just a lack of knowledge more than anything else.
Okay, after the break, high fees charged by investment companies and big payday for certain CEOs. More with the Monday Money panel. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are talking to our Monday Night Money panel about what's on their radar. And Jim, closely watching fees charged by mutual fund companies. Why is that?
Well, I think one interesting topical item is Vanguard's now come to Canada, and Vanguard's been a strong supporter of low fees. And here in Canada, we've been criticized as having high fees from the mutual fund industry. And so it'll be interesting to see if Vanguard has an impact. They've certainly had an impact in the U.S. Mutual fund world arena and an impact in Australia and parts of Europe. So I hope that they do bring some media awareness. I hope they bring awareness to investors. One thing I see largely is investors are very ignorant of how much the fees they're paying with their mutual funds. And so hopefully this just brings some awareness to the individual investors.
So potential there to shake things up?
Well, I hope so. I mean, the mutual fund industry is massive. It's $775 billion. The ETF industry is only $40 billion. So it's relatively small. It's got a lot of room for growth. And I mean, the ETFs, they have their own issues because it's largely a do-it-yourself type of product. And I still see the need for financial advice and a place for advisors. So hopefully, the key is that this brings just awareness about the fees they're paying. We're paying large fees. Or very significant fees, and I hope it does have an impact.
All right, Beth, national securities regulator on your radar tonight. Why is that?
Absolutely. Heard news today that by Thursday we may hear from the Supreme Court of Canada in terms of their decision about the national securities regulator, whether it is something that can go forward. And interestingly, here out of Alberta, some comments from Ron Leipert with respect to that going forward, Alberta, if the Supreme Court does announce that we can go forward with the national securities regulator, that Alberta may just go forward with that plan and learn to get along a little bit better and move forward, and importantly, participate in the decision-making process, especially as it relates to regulators and oil and gas related companies.
Shafik, you're going to have to surprise us tonight. What's on your radar?
You know, the main thing I'm looking at is domestically, the Canadian economy, GDP numbers are out on Friday. So are inflation numbers. They're out on Wednesday. So inflation, hopefully, we're targeting 2%. That's what Mark Carney has said, and hopefully that's what comes in. Internationally, I'm looking at Europe, like everybody is, what happens with the austerity measures, as well as what the IMF and the ECB come up with as a final bailout package for the euro.
Okay, so
there won't be a final bailout package.
It'll be on forever, so.
Yes, we'll be talking about that for a while on this panel. Yeah. All right, let's move to our final topic for tonight. Alberta company's big payday for its retired CEO. Shaw Communications paying Jim Shaw $25.5 million following his retirement in 2010, in addition to his salary, which he continued to receive, salary of $625,000 a year. This has some shareholders now asking questions. Beth, when should shareholders ask questions in this regard regarding payouts?
Well, certainly anytime a shareholder is concerned about the value that an executive at an organization is providing, and really as a shareholder, you're looking for that executive, that top management, and all of the employees of that company to continue to grow your investment and take it further. And really the question should come into play is, are those top executives managing for the long-term best interests of you as a shareholder and really the stakeholders of the organization? And that's really where the questions come into play. Now, in this particular case, you have the ability to vote. You can vote by simply selling the share. Or you can vote by imposing upon the board, or you can vote by participating in board director ownership. But I would take a step back, because this isn't just a problem unique to this particular one company. Maybe it's not even a problem. It's really a case of where are the averages? Where's the pressure coming from? And one of the interesting anecdotes I often hear is everybody thinks they're a better than average driver. Well, most executives think they're a better than average executive. And as a result, you end up comparing yourself to a median. You constantly want to search for and reach for that top level or better than average pay and so forth. And it really perpetuates in the industry. Really what you want to look for is top-level executives that are long-term in nature and not mercenary, not just looking to make the quick hit, that short-term trajectory, and get out. You're really looking for executives to be aligned with your interests as a shareholder.
Shafik, that's quite a difference. Jim and I were talking in the commercial break, $625,000 a year versus a payout of $25 million.
Yeah, that is kind of a nice little nest egg for a retiring person, isn't it? You know, on the flip side, and you know, ever since I've been in the industry about almost 18 years now, And ever since I started, people have been talking about executive compensation, and you know, it's more prevalent in the States than it is in Canada, and people are always focusing on this. But you know, on the other side, the Shaws have built a very large company, and they are the controlling shareholders of Shaw. They're a publicly traded company, so if people don't like it, they got choices. There's a difference between subscribing to Shaw services or any teleservice or any of the services and owning a piece of the company. And in this situation, if you don't like it, you could change your cable provider. If you don't like it, you can put a vote. But is Gretzky not worth what he was paid? Is Jerome McGinley not worth what they're paid? Leaders are often compensated, and it is in line for the most part with a lot of executive compensation. So I don't really see too much out of the norm here.
Jim Shaw is a successful business.
Sure.
They have grown and grown and grown. They've maybe strayed away from the thought of going toward telecommunications with cell phones, but family-run businesses, is that something worth looking at in terms of an investment, or is that something maybe to watch for a red flag?
Well, I mean, there is a fundamental problem there, because the family does have the majority of the voting shares. So even if, I mean, shareholders can vote by selling their stock, but I mean, I got to admit, I'm jealous, but at the end of the day, I'm not happy about it. You know, being a shareholder of the stock, you know, shareholders, what we want is a growing share price, and we want corporate profits. And both of those figures have not grown in line with the increase in salary that Mr. Shaw has gotten there. So, but you know, I got to agree with the other panel. Is what can you really do about it? You know, at the end of the day, I'm not sure any single person has the power to do anything individually. So unless a whole group of people sell, or a whole bunch of analysts sort of rebel at this, I'm not sure. I think it's just going to continue. So,
well, great conversation as always, folks. Thank you kindly for this tonight. Jim Yee is a financial educator and founder of retirehappy.ca. In Calgary, Beth Hamilton-Keene, Director and Portfolio Manager, Moore Investment Management, and Shafik Hirani, Director and Senior Executive Financial Advisor with Investors Group Calgary.